we may be heading into an era of a cratering in the housing market. Now, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I can read, I can look at historical data and numbers, and what we're seeing right now is a sell-off in many ways. I'm going to show you two videos that are going to give you information about the housing market. One is going to specifically talk about Texas and Florida, where, remember all those years where people were saying, yeah, all them liberals are fleeing New York, Illinois, and California and heading to Texas and Florida. Well, that's cratering now because of all the houses for sale in the United States of America currently, roughly 30% of them are in those two states, Texas and Florida. I'm going to show you a video pertaining to that. And then I'm going to show you a video pertaining to corporate landlords. Remember, I think it was Blackstone is the company that was just buying up all of these houses at top dollar over what they were worth, outbidding families and single mothers and all kinds of shit, right? And just buying up houses across the country so that they could hold all the inventory and rent it out to everybody and make a small fortune as the world's largest landlord. And they weren't the only corporate entity doing this, but they were certainly the largest. They're selling off like crazy at a loss right now. Take a look at these two videos.
Folks, I want to show you something crazy going on right now in Florida and Texas. You can see in these two states combined, there's almost 260,000 homes for sale right now. That inventory level is over 30% of all the homes for sale on the entire U.S. housing market, indicating that home prices in Florida and Texas are looking like they might drop by a lot in 2025. In the case of Texas, you can see that there's now over 100,000 listings on the market in 2025. That's the highest level in at least 8 years. While in Florida, there's over 150,000 homes for sale, also the highest level in 8 years. These sky-high inventory levels are signaling that sellers are looking to get out of the market before prices drop by further, especially builders, investors, and people who can no longer afford their property tax and insurance bills. Data on Reventure app is suggesting that home values in Florida and Texas could drop by as much as 3 to 5% over the next year, with some cities facing as much as a 10% decline. Blackstone is dumping houses on the U.S. housing market, and they are taking massive losses on some of them. For instance, this is a house that Blackstone purchased for $490,000 in 2022. Well, they just sold it at a 27% loss for $360,000. Meanwhile, this is a property that Blackstone bought for $550,000 in 2022, and they cut the price all the way down to $415,000. And this Blackstone fire sale has the potential to lower home values in quite a few different cities and neighborhoods around America, because they are now liquidating one of their subsidiary entities called Home Partners of America. Home Partners of America owns more than 28,000 homes across the U.S., and they were bought by Blackstone Real Estate Income Trust in 2021. But now Blackstone is winding down Home Partners of America and liquidating many of the homes at deep, deep discounts. And the fundamental issue is that these Wall Street landlords are now struggling to make money in the U.S. housing market because it simply isn't profitable to own rentals anymore, with how much property insurance has gone up, how much property taxes have gone up, how high interest rates are today. It means that the expenses of owning real estate are now outweighing the revenue collected from rent, and thus many Wall Street landlords have stopped buying and some have started to sell. For instance, you can see this very clearly in a report from Redfin, which shows that investor purchases on the U.S. housing market have plummeted by about 50% over the last 2 years, to the lowest level since 2016 in nominal terms. Now, what I think is really interesting about this graph is that you see the last time investor purchases plummeted in America, that was the mid-2000s, right before the last housing crash. It seems as if investors have an intuitive sense of when to get out of the market. They see the downturn coming often before maybe the regular home buyer or before even some of the amateur investors. And as a result, you got to be paying close attention to what these big Wall Street landlords are doing, because it's not just Blackstone that's now starting to sell off their portfolio. According to data from Parcel Labs, we're seeing other landlords sell their portfolios as well. In particular, Amherst, back in late 2024, was liquidating properties in Dallas, Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and Tampa, while American Homes for Rent was liquidating properties in Dallas and Houston, and Progress Residential, they were also liquidating properties in Houston. And what this chart is measuring, everyone, is the percentage of these investor portfolios that were for sale towards the end of 2024. And so if an investor has 4% of their entire portfolio in Houston for sale at a given time, that's massive. That means that if they were to keep this sales pace over the course of a couple of years, they would completely liquidate their portfolio.
So what does all of that mean? Well, clearly it means that people are looking to get the hell out of Texas and Florida right now because it's unaffordable to live there. Everybody bitches and moans about how expensive it is to live in Illinois, but the two most reliably red state, right, the two biggest red states in the nation, it's becoming unaffordable to live there. In Florida, it's becoming next to impossible to live there, economically speaking. And so people are fleeing those two states. In addition, as you saw, these corporate landlords are dumping off their inventory left and right, and they don't do that for no fucking reason, which means we're probably looking at a cratering of the housing market soon. What does that mean? I have no fucking idea what it means when that happens. All I know is the last time it cratered, I was in the landscape industry working for a company that dealt almost exclusively with new home builders, and we lost half of our business. We went from a $12.5 to $13 million a year business to a $6 million a year business overnight. We weren't bringing back half of our staff. The bosses were cutting everything as far as our benefits, right? We were paying more for our health insurance. We weren't getting, but we used to get fat bonuses in December. We weren't getting bonuses anymore. They were cutting back on everything because the whole damn housing market cratered. So I know from my standpoint, what it means is this. We're probably going to see home values kind of be wonky and all over the place, and I am just going to ride it the fuck out, right? If you're in a home that you can afford and there's no reason for you to try and relocate and move, you do what you want. I'm going to ride mine out, right? I'm going to let this fucking crazy market, if what we're heading into is equivalent to '08 or worse, and it looks like it might even be worse, yeah, you're going to be able to find me right the fuck here, man. I'm going to hold on to the property I've been sitting on for years and ride this shit the fuck out. If you don't have property and you've been looking to buy property, that might be a good time. I'm not an advisor, so I'm not giving you advice. I'm telling you to talk to a financial advisor. But that might be a good time when home prices go down and everybody is selling off, becomes a buyer's market. So, if you're somebody out there that doesn't own a home but would like to own a home, give it 2-3 years, and you might be able to swoop into a crippled market and pick up a property cheap. Unfortunately, that's the way that shit works. So, none of this looks good.